Will you debate him? Will you debate Tucker Carlson? I don't debate the Klan. I don't debate Nazis. I don't debate lowlives, poison, cancer in the form of these truly evil people. I could kick Tucker Carlson's ass. He's not that smart. After Charlie Kirk is assassinated, you platform this guy? You don't dismiss him? You know, everybody's not worth having on your program and questioning.
Mark Levin might need to have a doctor on hand at this point at all times of the day due to his rage-fueled rants. He's been screaming into his mic about Tucker Carlson over the last week, and actually a little longer than that. Right, Cenk?
Yeah, so Levin thinks that he's gonna get most of the Trump voters on his side by canceling Tucker Carlson. Let's see how that turns out. Let's see if that works.
And stick around for the text exchange that Levin leaks between himself and Tucker Carlson.
And by the way, I'll give you the rankings on how they're doing in media in a minute too, so you'll get a sense of context.
Now look, based on what Mark Levin said on one of his recent episodes, he's under the impression that if Turning Point USA simply blow off any and all questions about Israel from college students who attend their events, all will be well. Now, simply making the questions taboo will make it all go away. Here's what he had to say.
I've been warning the substitutes who are filling in for Charlie at the TPUSA events that you're getting a lot of plants in the audience that Charlie would dismiss, who are asking you racist, bigoted, anti-Semitic questions, and you need to respond in kind, not try and intellectualize and rationalize your responses to them.
Now, he later provided an example of how Charlie Kirk handled a question about Israel. And to be honest, he didn't just blow the person off. He actually did engage, and he didn't answer the question directly. He just talked about how you're just jealous of the Jews, don't be jealous of the Jews. Okay, but in other instances—
that is a terrible strategy.
In other instances though, Charlie Kirk actually did engage, he did answer questions, he got into debates, and I think that's the right way to handle it. That's not what Mark Levin wants. Mark Levin has a fundamental misunderstanding of who Charlie Kirk was. He didn't blow people off, he engaged in the debate, and if you don't believe me, here's one example featuring a Palestinian Christian just this past March who asked Charlie Kirk a legitimate question about Israel. Take a look.
US gives a lot of benefits to Israel. How does Israel benefit us as a partner?
Well, first and foremost, you're a Christian.
Yes.
How do we know the Bible is true?
From the land of Israel, Palestine.
That's not Palestine.
You want me to put British dash Palestine? Does that help?
Well, as a Christian, so are you Armenian Christian?
No, I'm actually Palestinian.
Okay, so what? And you're Christian?
Yes, I'm a Christian.
Okay, well, praise God. I'm thrilled to hear that. So, but I think you can acknowledge that we as Christians have to honor the Jews. Do you believe that?
I think we should honor everyone. People are people at the end of the day.
As a Christian, do you think that it's better for Christianity to have Israel controlled by Jews or Israel controlled by Muslims? What's better for Christianity?
From my own personal experience, I've seen Muslims be more receptive to the Christian faith than Jews. That's my own personal experience. But on top of that, there are, not only in Israel, there are thousands of churches all throughout the Middle East and Muslim-controlled countries that have been preserved for thousands of years now.
So I'm sure Mark Levin just happened to miss that exchange in which Charlie Kirk didn't just blow this student off, but actually engaged in this exchange. And by the way, I saw that video specifically on Charlie Kirk's YouTube channel. And I have one more example, Cenk. I wanna go to one more because I thought this was interesting. Now, the Palestinian Christian student that you just heard from, obviously very respectful, didn't say anything insulting about Israel or about Jewish religion. But even in instances where someone had engaged in pretty deep criticism of Jewish religion, Charlie Kirk didn't blow them off, he engaged. Take a look.
So Sota 4713 refers to Jesus as being a fornicator. Gittin 56 refers to Jesus burning in hell. And Shabbat 104b says that Mary was a Baba Messia 24a reads that if a Jew finds an object that a Gentile goy has lost, does not have to return it. Yebamath 98a says all children of goyim are animals. Tuspoth Jeremiah 84b says, if you eat with a goy, it is the same as eating with a dog. Baba Messia 114b says, Gentiles, goys, are not
Got it.
humans, they are beasts.
All of which are
And
legitimate verses, but as I mentioned, that is not a canonical part of what is considered to be divinely inspired Judaism.
Those are legitimate verses. Now that guy was reading from the Talmud. Anyway, look, the reason why I showed you that is because Charlie Kirk didn't blow people off. He actually engaged. And what Mark Levin is doing here is he's setting the stage to give himself a pass for his own cowardice when it comes to an opportunity in which I think he should have engaged in debate, but is unwilling to. I'll get to that in a minute, but first, thoughts, Cenk.
Yeah, so first of all, it was a super unfortunate shirt that guy had on.
Definitely.
Second of all, look, I hate those Talmud verses, and I don't mean it in that, oh, the Talmud is bad. I mean it that, guys, if you go back into any of the religious texts, you'll find a lot of terrible verses in all of the religions. So don't make it like, oh, all Jews believe that stuff, right?
They don't, you're right.
Yeah, just some fundamentalist lunatics might, but overall, most Jews don't believe that stuff at all, okay? So I just want to be clear about that. Now back to Mark Levin. So I noticed something really interesting there, but I'll get to that in a sec. So first, his strategy is, I'm dismissing Tucker. I'm dismissing him. I won't even talk. I mean, I would kick his ass in debate. Well, Mark, there's one easy way to show that if you engage in the debate, but you're obviously too much of a coward to do that. So now you're doing this as a strategy, right? And to be fair to Mark Levin, because we're the fairest show in America, this is a strategy that has worked for a long time, back when, pro-Israel radicals like Mark Levin controlled media completely. So what they would do is they would not allow you to speak at all. And he's saying, let's go back to that. Don't let the students speak. Don't let any real Americans speak. Don't let Tucker Carlson speak. And then we're the only ones who could put out the message. And we'll have mainstream media tell everybody that Israel's a special ally and you owe them money and it's all your fault and you better give your money to Israel right away. Otherwise, we're gonna call you an anti-Semite and destroy your life, right? So he's trying to go back to a thing that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, you can get mainstream media. They're still doing it today. I mean, as Harry Enton would say, the mainstream media is stuck in the 1900s, right? Well, 1998 or whatever. So, and they think like, oh yeah, we canceled everybody. There's too many of us now. You're surrounded and you don't realize it. And so.
And also, I just take offense to this idea that anyone who dare ask a question that is critical of the US alliance with Israel is by definition anti-Semitic and should be ignored. It's so taboo, you can't even ask that question. Now look, have there been instances in which someone who's actually anti-Semitic asked a gross question? I'm sure. I mean, Charlie Kirk did so many of these events, but that's not what he was referring to. He was referring to college students who are asking legitimate questions. And you wanna know what happens when you blow them off and treat them like they're illegitimate? They're probably gonna be more open-minded, okay, to groups or individuals who go a little more further than simple criticism of the Israeli government.
Yeah, and by the way, we're not reversing cancel culture, because if you did, the first person you'd cancel is Randy Fine, right? He's a genocidal maniac.
He's disgusting.
He's saying we should nuke or starve 2 million people to death. Anyone who talks to him or platforms him is obviously a monster, we would say, if we use Mark Levin's strategy. But we don't use that strategy because every American is allowed to have their own opinion. And I don't mind debating Randy Fine. It's the easiest thing in the world. I handed him his ass just last week on Piers Morgan's show. So we're not afraid of anyone, but Mark Levin knows that if you get into a real debate on Israel, he has no chance of winning. So, but the most important part of what you heard so far though, is did you notice Mark Levin saying, I talked to a bunch of Charlie's replacements and I warned them about how to handle these students. Why is Mark Levin giving marching orders to the Charlie Kirk's replacements at Turning Point USA? Who made Mark Levin the boss of Turning Point after Charlie's gone? That is a super interesting, because they didn't ask me, they didn't ask any right wingers, they didn't ask Tucker Carlson. It appears the people that they're taking directions from are, look at that, Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro. I'm sure it's a wild coincidence that they're huge Israel supporters.
Now look, I do believe Mark Levin in that he just doesn't want to even have the debate. But this was a way of setting up what he really wanted to talk about, which was his cowardice in not wanting to debate Tucker Carlson, who he's been attacking incessantly, when Tucker Carlson reached out to him. So you're about to hear Mark Levin reveal the text exchange between himself and Tucker Carlson in regard to a proposed debate at Turning Point USA.
I got a very strange text this morning from Tucker Carlson, 10:16 a.m. I'll read it to you for verbatim. Good morning, he writes to me. The leadership at Turning Point has asked me to debate you at their event in Scottsdale in December. I'm happy to do it, and I hope you'll agree as well. Beyond the personal insults, which I'll try to keep to a minimum, there are real and important ideological differences between us. And I think the country would benefit from an extended conversation about them. So again, I hope you'll accept. Let me know. Thanks. The guy is desperate. He's taken a hit on his podcast. He's fighting like hell for his career. He's fighting like hell for his reputation. People are awakening to what scum he actually is. And he thinks I'm going to platform him. I wrote him the following. My family and I want nothing to do with you. There's nothing to debate. You're a Nazi promoter. You're the modern day David Duke. I debate people with whom I disagree for a living. We're a lot smarter than you.
Let me just remind you all that Mark Levin glazes a literal wanted war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu, who has slaughtered tens of thousands of children over the last 2 years alone. Mark Levin refers to people like Zoran Mamdani, who just happens to be Muslim, as jihadists because his hatred for Muslims runs so deep he can't stop himself from fear-mongering about a Muslim, regardless of what that Muslim individual's beliefs actually happen to be. Mark Levin would probably get down on his knees and fillet Randy Fine because Randy Fine can't get Benjamin Netanyahu's Johnson out of his mouth. Okay, that's the reality of the situation. Okay, he's a hateful, disgusting prick. And you can be critical of how Tucker Carlson handled the interview with Nick Fuentes. I get it, I get that people don't think he went hard enough. But to lie and make it seem as though he didn't push back on Nick Fuentes at all. To lie and make it appear as though Tucker Carlson didn't draw a very clear distinction between himself as someone who is critical of the Israeli government and Nick Fuentes, who seems to blame all Jews, is ridiculous to me. This is an effort to just try to destroy Tucker Carlson simply because he is critical of the US alliance with Israel, especially with all the money we have sent them and with all the atrocities the Israeli government and its military have carried out, not just over the last 2 years, but for decades now. Cenk.
So he claims that Tucker Carlson should be canceled because he's an unacceptable bigot by being anti-Semitic. Now, in reality, as Anna pointed out, and we showed you the clip last week, Tucker Carlson, talking to Fuentes, did a whole diatribe about how anti-Semitism is wrong, and it's diametrically opposed to his Christian faith, which he repeated several times on Megyn Kelly's show. Right? So he is clearly saying, I do not hate Jews, and you would be terribly wrong and anti-Christian to hate Jews, okay? So that seems clear, but he says, no, not good enough, not good enough. I'm still gonna call you an anti-Semite because you oppose my beloved Israel, right? So now, on the other hand, Mark Levin is openly racist and bigoted against Muslims. And he doesn't even think twice about it because he's like, well, Muslims don't matter. They're just there for human fodder for Israel to destroy, right? And so since he's an open bigot, it's not even close. So if we're using Mark Levin's logic, and I love how he keeps saying, I'm smarter than them, I'm smarter than them. Well, there's one way to find out, brother. Step into the ring. I'm happy to debate you anytime. I'm not worried about your positions. Will you call me an anti-Semite? Ooh, I wonder. That's the only thing you ever do because you're an idiot. I actually don't respect Mark Levin at all. I think he's actually actively unintelligent, probably under 100 IQ. All he knows is anti-Semite, cancel. He sounds like a moron every time he speaks,
Agreed.
right?
Yep.
So it'd be easy. It'd be so easy for me to destroy Mark Levin. So now, the open bigot that he is, doubly bigoted because he's like, Muslims don't count, so I could be as racist as I want against them or as bigoted as I want. And my brother Randy Fine, who talks about murdering all of them, I love that guy. Well, then you should obviously be canceled according to your own logic. Okay, now, the second part of it, he said Tucker's desperate. He said his podcast is taking a hit. So I looked it up. Tucker Carlson's podcast is in the top 10. Do you know where Mark Levin's is? I don't either, because it's not in the top 200.
Oof.
So there's something that Mark is not getting because he lives in the old days. So he's like, no, we cancel Tucker. I told all my friends in mainstream media, cancel him. And he's not allowed on there anymore. Yeah, I got it. And if any of those Americans, their students, try to destroy Israel or even criticize Israel, we're gonna cancel them too. Okay, Mark, yeah, you can do all that. And I know you are doing that. Is it working? No, because mainstream media now is pathetic and we all laugh at them. So go and play ass slap football with Jake Tapper and all your buddies in mainstream media. It isn't gonna help you at all. You're not platforming him. Tucker's actually trying to do you a favor by platforming you. You would go on an infinitely larger show if that happened. But of course, you're not gonna take that opportunity because your case sucks and you're an idiot and you know you'd get destroyed.
I gotta say, man, it is wild seeing the right wing in America criticize someone for platforming when they spent years and years, rightly in my opinion, criticizing the left over their anti-platforming arguments. No, guys, enough of this like, oh, don't platform, especially when it comes to someone who has a massive following of their own. And I'm talking about Nick Fuentes, okay? That doesn't mean I support the things that Nick Fuentes says, but I am saying that Nick Fuentes has a massive following. He does. And so the real question is, why? Given the things that he is on the record saying, why? Why does he have that big audience? Because ignoring him doesn't mean that that audience goes away. Ignoring him and making him taboo doesn't mean that the people who believe in what Nick Fuentes is saying are just gonna go away. In fact, that issue becomes more of an issue unless you're willing to engage in spirited debate. And so I don't know what to tell Mark Levin. He's losing control and he's freaking out and he's doing it publicly. It's entertaining, but he's gonna have a heart attack live on air one day.
Yeah, and Mark, when we say entertaining, don't get us wrong, we're laughing at you,
100%,
not with you, okay?
Yeah.
And Anna, you're 100% right. The more they cancel people, the stronger Fuentes gets.
Yes.
And that's not good for anybody, in my opinion, okay? And so by canceling Israel's legitimate critics, the only thing they're leaving behind is the guy screaming, it's the Jews, right? And so they're like, haha, we got him. No, you didn't. You're making him bigger and bigger every time you cancel another legitimate critic of Israel. You're not doing Jewish people any favors. We're saying it's not the Jews. Tucker's saying it's not the Jews. The problem is Israel. We just have to stop funding them. Perfectly legitimate political argument, right? And by shutting us down in their minds, right? The only thing they're leaving up is Fuentes because you can't cancel him. He's already been canceled. So, right? Like they're not getting the phenomenon. The walls have been breached. Everyone already knows Israel's robbing us. The rest is now just doing damage to Jewish Americans. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.